The situation in Kenya has attracted a lot of reaction from the international community. The ongoing demonstrations, and especially the impending 3-day back-to-back protest that has been planned from Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, is something that is being watched, discussed, and scrutinized both locally and internationally. The African Union is already shaken, because I remember the last time they were saying that they stand solidly behind legitimately elected government, because these are leaders of the same feathers. And recently, the United Nations Human Rights Office, through their spokesperson, condemned the excessive force by the government, that the government is using too much force on those who are peacefully demonstrating. And they said that 23 lives were lost. And they said that thorough and independent investigation must be carried out and those perpetrators brought to book. It didn't end there, because I also read a statement from the UNICEF condemning the use of force by the police on pupils and students, because they were never left out. In fact, the last demonstrations was really marred by violent reaction from the police, and they didn't care. Even the school children and pupils who are coming from school were not spared. CNN and BBC and Al Jazeera, all these international media, were also focusing their attention in the Kenyan situation. But I don't know whether I'm the only one who cannot help but to wonder why the USA is loudly silent about the situation in Kenya. When all this is happening, I expected Joe Biden to react through the US ambassador to Kenya, Madam Meg Whitman. And I have checked even on the Twitter handle to see what she has said lately. And this is what I came across. This tweet was done on a few hours ago. And you all know that there is a lot of anxiety and tension in the country owing to all these altercations, when Kenyans are lamenting the punitive taxes and Ruto's appetite to increase the prices of basic commodities. And there is a case that is pending in court, courtesy of Okiya Mutata. Now, USA has intentionally steered clear of that debate. This is a photo that was shared by Madam Medlin, and she was saying, I enjoyed meeting with Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Dr. Alfred Mutua, to discuss shared US and Kenya multilateral priorities. Of course, they were there with Ambassador Michelle Ciizens, and it goes on to say, pleased to have enjoyed State GIO for a meeting with CS Alfred Mutua discussing #US-Kenya strategic collaboration. In other words, when Kenyans are facing one of their most difficult moments, Madam Meg Whitman is busy meeting government officials, and they are discussing ostensibly, the cordial relationship between Kenya and the USA. And just 2 days ago, there's another picture that Madam Whitman shared. Look at it there. Delighted to have joined Governor Susan Kihika to break ground for Kentigra's new refinery in Naivasha, the United States, through DF. All that has been said, has committed close to $1 million in financing for the new facility that will create a stable income for 90,000 plus. Now, what is happening here is she was with Governor Susan Kihika of Nakuru, and she was there also with Alfred Mutua. I'm just trying to paint for you a picture that when the country is tensed, USA has stayed clear of the discussion. And why is it a wonder that they are quiet? It is a wonder because I remember the last time when there was a stalemate, a standoff between William Ruto and Raila Odinga. The US Delaware Senator Chris Coons had to fly into the country to broker a truce, to force a kind of a handshake. And I remember William Ruto had just accused the opposition of trying to topple what they call legitimately elected government. Raila reverted back because a letter was done, a long letter, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that Raila Odinga wanted to topple the government. So Raila rebutted this letter. It is said that they have the right in the constitution of picketing. And of course you all know what happened. Why don't they now talk about what is happening? Because there is police brutality. There is excessive force. People are dying. Others are maimed. Children, school-going children are not spared either. And yet they are very quiet. I have listened to certain discussion from some quarters that the USA is, soon severing ties with William Ruto, that they are about to abandon William Ruto. Up to this moment as I speak, I strongly believe that Ruto still remains a project of the West, a project of the USA and UK, and they are committed to ensure that William Ruto succeeds. People have been mentioning the recent hosting of Iranian president. You know that there is one of the fiercest war, economic and weapon kind of war between the West and the East. And of course the West is the USA, UK, the NATO group, and the East is Russia, China, Iran. And Iran has been a thorn in the flesh to the US. They don't see eye to eye. So when William Ruto hosted Iranian president, people said that William Ruto is shooting himself in the foot, and they say that their relationship will soon get sour. And they're also saying that recently Ruto has been mentioning things about we should abandon the dollar. He wants a united Africa. And it's very unfortunate that people have started likening William Ruto to the stature of Mama Gaddafi. Others are saying that he's the new Magufuli. And they say that these statements will set him against the USA. But I want to disagree. I want to disagree because the difference between Magufuli or Mama Gaddafi and William Ruto is this. Mama Gaddafi and Magufuli, both of them are the late, and there are claims that they are victims of foul play from the West because they were talking about a united Africa, something that the US would not want to see. When William Ruto talks, he does not walk the talk. But Magufuli and the former Libyan president, Muammar Gaddafi, walked the talk. You will understand that when William Ruto was the deputy president under Uhuru, he was never traveling a lot. And William Ruto was very strategic in his approach to become the president of Kenya. He moved very fast to get a doctorate degree, PhD. And then he knew very well that when he gets in, he would be traveling. So today when you see, I don't know, the 10 most educated presidents in Kenya, William Ruto is there. And then William Ruto, because of, is an orator by the way, full of lies of course. He has now graduated from hoodwinking Kenyans and he has gone to a notch higher. He's now hoodwinking the whole of African Union. William Ruto was never known, and he wanted to get himself into that position to be known. The most discussed president in Africa is William Ruto, and he's doing that intentionally to win their hearts. I'll tell you for free that William Ruto is a Trojan horse. He is the person that has been put there, placed by the USA to serve their interest. And for him to succeed in this, William Ruto will be talking about dollars and all this to create a scenario, and you will think that he is an enemy of the West. Yet whatever he's doing is to endear himself to the African Union. He wants to look like he is manifesting characters that are tantamount to someone who is really concerned about the African situation. Yet his actions speak on the contrary. When presidents like Yoweri Kaguta Museveni are fighting LGBTQ and they are signing controversial laws that the USA and UK would want to rush and place sanctions, William Ruto, through the judiciary, is giving the LGBTQ a leeway that they have the freedom of association. How then do you tell me that William Ruto is an enemy of the West? When African countries, some African countries are abandoning an GMO, William Ruto is busy forcing GMO. It is now pending in our courts. William Ruto says he's a doctor, I think in botany, plants, and he knows that GMO, he says, he knows that GMO is good for consumption. And you all know that this is looking for a market for the US farmers. And this is the reason why US is still very quiet up to this moment when people are being butchered. But they sometimes present themselves as champions of democracy and human rights. It is a wonder that they are loudly silent about this. And I want to submit to you that William Ruto is still the darling, the child and the puppet of the USA and the UK. Just by mentioning a few words here that we need to abandon the dollar and start using our African currency does not mean there is not any actualization of the statements from President William Samoei Ruto. And so this fallacy that this is the new, the new Mama Gaddafi, Pan-Africanist, is neither here nor there. Until we see the actions, he must walk the talk. We will not accept these attempts by the USA to place someone just like he was installed in State House. He's slowly being installed in the African Union panel. Today, whenever the African Union want to speak on something, they will pick on Ruto. The other day, he was really pressurizing the International Monetary Fund to amend certain laws so that Africa can be given more autonomy. And some of the things that he speaks about are reality. You look at them. For example, how do we pay with the dollar a transaction between two African countries? He really speaks about valid points, but the truth is he doesn't mean them. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm really baffled because it confirms our fears. We all know that it is the USA that installed William Ruto. But it means that when Kenyans will be going up there, they don't care when Kenyans are being butchered and massacred, as long as their interests are taken care of. When the country is at a standstill, that is when you will see people like Chris Kun coming back and trying to broker truce, forcing people to talk. You know, Kenya is an independent country. We don't need to be lectured. We don't need people are coming to interfere with our elections and later on still want to control the way we behave. Kenyans are on the streets and they are fighting the high cost of living. No one is talking about it. And yet we are still saying that William Ruto simply wants to maintain the relationship with the East as he is largely with the West. And the West will ensure that before we know it, William Ruto shall have controlled and convinced the African Union that he's their spokesperson. It is very easy. Once you have your man at the helm of everything, he becomes a mon. He will be championing the interest of the USA, of the UK. And that is the reason why he is there. If if USA does not want to talk when people are being killed, let them not come here with through the ambassadors and who, when things get thicker, when push comes to shove, let them not come, because this is the time when we know who is with us. This blatant support of the government, even when they are wrong, is something that we don't want, because USA has always presented itself as a government that embraces democracy and human rights. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why I'm really shocked that they are quiet. I don't know whether there is another person who is really questioning why the USA and all the diplomats are quiet, or is it me who is not following? Please share with me if you've seen any communication to the effect that the government is using excessive force on people. I still want to believe. The other day, William Ruto gave this richest Bill Gates. He was here a few months ago, and recently he was donated some land where he wants to establish, I think, one of his research centers. And you know, all this is GMO coming to Kenya. And actions, every action of President William Samoei Ruto is contrary to the verbal utterances when he's outside there. And how I wish that all this international community, all these African Union presidents would understand that William Ruto is an orator. He will speak anything. He knows what to speak at what time. He knows what is music to the ears. And that is why he has really convinced them that Africa should be autonomous, that Africa must be doing business within the bilateral and multilateral African relationship must be enhanced. Yet what he's doing really tells you that we are still a colony of the US, because whatever we do is injurious to our people to please them. The taxes that William Ruto is raising are dictates of the International Monetary Fund. So we still play to the American gallery, to the Western gallery, yet we want to pretend that we are champions of a democratic and a united Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to call upon Madam Meg Whitman to give us their position on this, because when things are dirty, they always come and force Raila to abandon whatever is his quest. Yet they are now quiet. Do we now take it that they are sanctioning, they have given the green light to the police brutality by the government? It is something that I'm really baffled, and it's the pretense that we've ever seen. And let me tell you, last but not least, it confirms our fears that indeed William Ruto is a project of the West. But let the West know that we have the freedom of picketing and association, and we shall continue, because over the years, emancipation does not come easy. People have to fight for it. And that is my take.